want to introduce a book to you that had a massive impact on me called The Art of Possibility by Ben Zander. I know he wrote it with his wife, but I can't remember his wife's name. But Ben Zander was the Boston Philharmonic Orchestra conductor for 25 years. He inspired me with one quote. When he retired, he said, "It's taken me 25 years to realize I never make a sound." Wow, you've got this person who for 25 years has conducted one of the a world class orchestra. Like, and his job is he doesn't actually make any of the sound. He just draws the sound out of the 100-piece orchestra in front of him to make this beautiful symphony. And I was so inspired by that because it kind of sums me up. Like, I'm very comfortable in my leadership of not being the person who's on the stage ranting and raving, or who's got the face on the social media with all the likes and dislikes and followers. I'm very comfortable to be the person who stands facing my team and drawing the sound out of them. I'm working so hard that together we make this incredible symphony. So when he brought the book out, The Art of Possibility, I grabbed it very quickly and just took some real key leadership notes from his own journey of leadership. Just a quick highlight from one of the things he says: you can lead from any chair. And it's a beautiful story where he's standing in front of his gifted musicians, and he just points at the third violinist and just says, "You turn to any page and they've got like 7 or 8 pieces they're all rehearsing." He says, "Randomly just choose any page and start playing your part." And then he said to the rest of the orchestra, he said, "Just when you recognize the cue from you, you start playing your part." And without him lifting a finger, just listening to this third chair violinist playing their part influenced until eventually the whole of the orchestra were playing a symphony because the person in their chair played their part. And he's just saying, if you play your part with excellence, you will influence people around you. And this inspires me to. It's not about just finding the outstanding, the star. You're not the Roger Federer. It's not about finding the Roger Federer. It's about finding the person who's committed to the cause, who knows their part and plays their part with excellence, and they become an influence to those people around them, and eventually it releases the whole of the orchestra into play. That I found that a very inspirational part of his book.
Well, I
There,
mean, the thought of the conductor doesn't face the audience, I think is a fascinating concept. And I think for many pastors, I mean, for some pastors, their natural gifting is to be a front facing leader, and that's absolutely fine. And I guess even in your own ministry, there's a front facing nature to it,
yes,
but
yeah,
you recognize that your biggest strength is facing your team, facing your the orchestra that you lead. And I think for some pastors and ministers, I think that could be a bit of a revelation moment if they were to
yeah,
get that,
yeah,
because I think we often think you've got to be a certain type of person to be a leader or a church leader.
yeah,
And I think this, if I'm getting it right, it seems like that's telling a slightly different story.
yes.
Am I kind of hitting on a right
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
there?
This is not the usual track certainly in Christian ministry. Actually, in lots of organisations, you can say you can talk about a top level organization, for example, Apple, and you usually say there's the founder, there is Steve Jobs, and when you name the big companies, but there are a lot of companies out there that we use. And if you were to say who's the brains behind that, who's the driving force behind that, you go, well, we don't know, right? But it is very successful. And I'm very comfortable. Bob Burford said this. he said, my fruit grows on other people's trees. And that is my greatest reward. That is something that I absolutely enjoy. I love it. I love it. Because you and I work together, Chris, and I love it when there's moments in your life where something is growing in you and it comes to fruition, and other people, like metaphorically, are eating the fruit off your tree. I find that just so rewarding. Like more than people saying, "Oh, you're doing a good job, Simon." Like that, I thank them. I realise that people are being generous, but the greatest reward for me is when I've invested into someone, they have become fruitful, and other people are enjoying the experience of their gifting. Is something that's very, very important to me.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Yeah,
So that
he put lots of confidence in people. There's some other things that there's some chaps in there that I can't say because they're naughty words, and but they definitely when it comes to risk and come on, let's do it, that kind of approach. But there's another moment where he anybody who gets into his class, like in the university that he teaches at, he gives them all a blank piece of paper with an A in the top corner. And he says, I've already marked you. This is your finishing paper. He says, you just complete it at the end of the year. I've already marked it. And he just says, you're all A students. Everyone is A students. And you think, how do you do that? He says, well, number one, you wouldn't get into my class if you
yes.
weren't an A student. Like if you weren't a grade 8 musician, you wouldn't be in my class, for starters. I said, but to have the confidence to work out technically what you've practiced, to have the confidence to produce that is not of course we have to practice, but to have a confidence that what's in me can be presented at this level is purely confidence. He says, my job is not really to teach them how to play their instruments. They already know how to play their instruments, and practice will make them better. He says, but if I can put confidence in them, they will project a whole different level of skill that comes through, not just their practice, but from within them, there's this confidence. So he says, if you're in my class, I've already marked your final result. All you have to do is fill in the blanks because you're already an A. And that these moments of skillful leadership, of putting confidence into people, all add to this style of leadership that I'm a passionate believer in. Calling out the poor things in people, but giving confidence to people just to keep rising and believing they're not a finished article.